How do I maintain brain health as I age? Did you know neurodegenerative conditions or disease in the brain are at an all-time high? Just because this is a fact doesn't mean that you have to be one of the statistics. What I want to do is show you how you can have a healthy, expressive brain that gets better and healthier every year. I'm going to take you through what we call the Ageless Brain Protocol and a cardio fit assessment so that you can learn to maximize your brain. So by the end of this video, you're going to be able to learn things faster. You'll be able to memorize names in ways that you've never memorized them before, and you'll be able to have a roadmap to have the healthiest brain into the future. So the brain is such a sensitive and still undiscovered organ in the body. I mean, not only does it allow for all of the body to function, like my heart's beating without me thinking about it. I'm sure my liver's like moving, different toxins through. My digestive system is absorbing nutrients. And it's all governed by this control center called the brain. And the brain has nerves that go into all the muscles and into the heart. And so when you build out your body operational system, you want to think of what are the things that are going to move the needle the most for my brain and protect that thing. I mean, if you look at the body, it's funny how we have bone that surrounds the brain all the way around it. So it is a vital organ in your body. So what does the brain do, and are there ways that we can actually reverse aging in the brain? One of the things that I got obsessed with when I was a teenager is the brain. I actually read a book on brain health, and I learned about omega-3 fatty acids in fish, and I started learning about all the great benefits of certain foods like blueberries to feed the brain. And then I took a course called Mega Memory because I had a goal in school. I said, I don't want any homework. So when the bell would ring, the teacher would hand out the homework, and I would have the homework done before I'd leave the classroom. Sometimes the new class is coming in, but it was my goal. So what I'd have to do is I'd have to memorize everything the teacher was saying so that I could finish my assignment and turn it in, because there's more things to do outside of school besides more school. That was my thinking as a kid, and it served me really well. But the reason why I got interested in it is I had a grandmother who was so vibrant, really expressive, my mom's mom, and she was an entrepreneur in the 1950s. I mean, she had an ice cream shop, a wedding business where she'd set up these very cool venues. And my grandmother started sending me extra money in the mail. She'd say, "Happy birthday." And I'd be like, "It's not my birthday, but thank you for hooking me up." I just thought I was her favorite grandson. I'm sure I was, right? We all think we're the favorite. But I asked my mom, I finally started to feel a little guilt. I was like, I've gotten like 5 birthday cards from grandma in the last 2 months. And my mom's like, "Yeah, your grandma has Alzheimer's." And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." Because I actually read the book and I was like, I know what Alzheimer's is. I know that there's no cure for it. It is scary. You and I, we want to live into our 80s, but the risk that happens in our 80s, it's not heart disease, it's not diabetes, it's not cancer even. It's Alzheimer's that we have to be afraid of. And that's where I've been obsessed with the brain, because there's certain things that can limit our body's ability to recover. So how do you have a younger brain as you age? Well, first of all, we want to prevent these big diseases, and it's all part of this integral process that I'm going to share with you. So when I saw my grandmother for the last time, she was so disoriented she couldn't find the bathroom, was about ready to defecate on the living room floor. And that was devastating to see such a woman who was so gifted and so charismatic. To see a decline like that. She was scared, she didn't understand things, very confused. And so how can we prevent this? The 3 things that I've learned about the brain health is, number 1, our brain loves movement. So the more you move your body, not only is that good for your cardiovascular health, but as you're building out your ageless future, movement becomes a key component because the brain engages all the muscles. You know, the nerves that allow me to stand up or to move my hands, that all was orchestrated by my brain. Pretty phenomenal. And the brain can do that while it's allowing my body to metabolize and to breathe and to detoxify and all the things that it does. So movement. Every day, set a timer, and this is your challenge. Set a timer and work on movements that require balance and coordination. So I'm going to show you a movement that one of my mentors, Jim Quick, shared with me when I was at one of his conferences. And what Jim Quick does is he has this movement where you have your hands, one palm out, one palm in, and then you just push those. And all that does is it helps orchestrate the brain. So when you move in ways that are unique to you, that can help activate both sides of the brain. When you do Qigong, like I like to do what's called draw the bow, and you can just say inhale, draw the bow, exhale. And if you ever come to one of my longevity retreats, you'll experience this whole level of movement. And we orchestrate movement with breathing. If you love Pilates, I call it Pilates purgatory because my wife puts me on the reformer and then I just get my muscles burned out. It's phenomenal. But movement is healing, and it's one of the best things you can do for your brain. In fact, 70% of your brain, the wiring in the brain, is directly correlated to moving your body and to having your sensory, like your vision and your sense of smell, sense of taste, and hearing. So all of the sensory systems are dependent on your brain. So the second thing for brain health is detoxification. Now I've got a whole bunch of videos on cognitive benefits, how to increase your cognitive processing, the difference between execution and cognition in the brain. So make sure you check that out in other shows. But when you're talking about the aging brain, if your brain is not able to detoxify, that's where we get those plaques that start to accumulate on our neurons, where our brain health starts to diminish. So what can you do? Well, one of the things that researchers have found is in people who have cognitive decline or dementia, they have lower levels of a peptide called glutathione. Now, glutathione is 3 peptides and acetylcysteine. And if you can activate the glutathione in your brain through a nasal spray, that's how you can bypass all the metabolic processes and get glutathione right into the brain. And we use a substance called glutastat. It has a little oregano in it, a little bit of thyme, a little bit of clove, and some oxytocin. And it's a very strong antiseptic, it's antifungal, but you can get glutathione right into the brain. The other way that your brain detoxifies is when you sleep. So sleep, believe it or not, is when your brain is the most active. When you're sleeping, your brain requires 25% of the electrical energy, or when you're awake, which is about 20%. And so if you can get really good sleep, your brain will do phenomenal. There's a peptide that I love for sleep called DSIP. That's deep sleep inducing peptide, or delta sleep inducing peptide. And the delta waves are when you drop into that deep sleep. And then you go into REM, and that's when your brain gets really creative and it starts organizing all the concepts in your body. It's also when you get a rejuvenation in all the systems. And then the third part that's going to be really impactful for your long-term brain health is learning new things. And when I say learning new things, I mean, I wish I had YouTube when I was a kid. I mean, think about this conversation you and I are having. Like, you know, hopefully there's been some things that you've learned and picked up as we've just been talking about the brain, but you can get on YouTube and you can literally learn any subject that you're interested in. And so I'm going to ask you to do this experiment where you just ask yourself, be very curious and say, what can I learn about the brain and how can I prevent my brain from aging? And actually, as our brains get older, they get more wise. We start integrating all of our contextual experiences and bringing that into reality. So actually, as you age, your brain works better. And even though these so-called senior moments, like those can be a thing of the past, if you can learn how to detoxify your brain, you can move your body more and move in unique ways. Just don't do the same movement every day. You got to move your body in multiple planes. And then that third thing is learn something new. So whether that's a new language, whether you like to travel, it allows your brain to have new neural pathways. And then if you want to add in therapies that can influence your brain's age and actually reverse the age, that's where intranasal stem cells can be phenomenal. I have a whole video on that. Love to have you check that out if you're interested. We use peptides like Cmax and Selenk and Dihexa, and what these do is they activate the dopamine response, activate GABA, and even BDNF so that your brain can repair itself. And these are very easy peptides to use, they're very safe, and in the long run they seem to be one of the most protective things you can do. So if you love this video on brain health, you'll want to check out my video on longevity. Just click here and I'll see you in the next video.